For centuries, the galaxy had laughed at the idea of humans. To most, they were nothing more than smoke and rumor, ghost stories whispered in old starports where weary pilots traded tall tales. The stories spoke of a species that once walked among the stars with unmatched brilliance, who built warships so vast and deadly they could silence entire fleets in a single breath. But as centuries passed, the archives grew thin. The ruins were buried under shifting sands of time, and the name human became a legend, no more credible than tales of dragons or gods. The Karath Dominion, the supreme power of the Orion arm, scoffed the loudest. For them, myths of humans were amusing, remnants of a primitive galaxy's imagination. If such a race existed, they declared, we would see them, we would fear them. And so they ruled unchallenged until the day the stars trembled. It began quietly, almost imperceptibly. On the edge of the Orion expanse, outlying patrol fleets began to vanish. Entire squadrons sent on routine sweeps failed to return. No wreckage was found, no distress calls recorded, only silence. The Dominion chalked it up to pirates. After all, border raiders had always plagued the edges of empire. But then, colonies began to fall silent too. Planetary relays that had pulsed for centuries went dark, their transmissions cut mid-sentence. Merchant ships stumbled upon the wreckage of settlements, cities gutted, orbital defenses crushed, fleets reduced to drifting shards. And then came the first sighting. A Dominion scout frigate, the Arindra, limped back to base with half its hull missing. The captain, eyes wide and voice shaking, spoke of something impossible. It was no pirate, no Dominion ship, no alien raider we've ever faced. It was human. The council laughed at first. A delirious fool, they called him. But when the recovered black box revealed the footage, their laughter died. There, amidst the static, was the shadow of a ship, colossal, armored, black as the void itself. It bore no modern insignia, no registry, only a single marking etched deep into its scarred hull, United Earth Navy. The Dominion could not believe what they were seeing. Humanity, a race buried in myth, it was impossible. And yet the wreckage piling on their borders said otherwise. So they dispatched their pride, the 6th Fleet, under the command of Grand Admiral Vaith. 300 ships, armed with the most advanced weaponry of the age, to hunt down this phantom. It was supposed to be a display of power, a reminder to the galaxy that the Dominion feared nothing. Instead, it became the beginning of a nightmare. The fleet entered the Orion expanse with scanners wide, weapons charged, eager to prove the myths false. And then they saw it. The warship. It hung in space like a shadow given form. Immense, silent, slow. Its engines glowed with a pale, ancient light. It did not maneuver with the precision of modern craft. It simply drifted, as if it had all the time in the universe. "Target acquired," Vaith ordered. "Destroy it." 100 beams lanced out, torrents of plasma and particle fire raining down on the ancient hulk. Explosions rippled across its armored surface. But the ship did not falter. Its shields absorbed the barrage. Its hull shrugged off damage that would have gutted any Dominion cruiser. Then it spoke. Not in words, but in action. The warship's main cannon glowed. An ancient, terrible light, like the heart of a newborn star. In a single breath, it fired. A beam cut through the void, blinding, pure, and the Dominion's 6th Fleet ceased to exist. Not crippled, not scattered, erased. 300 ships, gone in less than a minute. Panic spread through the Dominion. The survivors, few as they were, spoke of the warship in hushed, broken tones. They said it was not alone. That behind it, hidden in the shadows of hyperspace, more ships stirred, more human ships. The myths had been true all along. Within weeks, the galaxy changed. Human warships, long thought lost to time, emerged from hyperspace corridors across the Orion Arm. Some were old and scarred, their hulls etched with battles fought against empires long forgotten. Others gleamed with technologies unseen in modern times, silent engines, weapons of pure energy, defenses that seemed impossible. They did not speak, they did not send messages, they simply destroyed. Dominion outposts, military stations, fleets, none could stand. Entire worlds that once mocked the thought of human existence fell silent beneath their guns. The Dominion High Council convened in desperation. For the first time in centuries, fear crackled in their voices. "What do they want?" demanded Chancellor Drixon. "They want nothing," whispered General Kor. "They are not here to negotiate. They are not here to reclaim. They are here to remind the galaxy why humanity was feared." The last transmission from the border worlds was not from a soldier, not from a general, but from a frightened communications officer. His voice, trembling, carried across every open channel before the line went dark. They thought humans were legends, until their dangerous warships returned. And with that, the galaxy knew the myths had never died. The legends had been sleeping. And now, humanity had awakened. The galaxy was no longer laughing. The Karath Dominion's pride, its mighty Sixth Fleet, was gone, erased in a single flash of light by a warship thought impossible. For the first time in living memory, the Dominion trembled. But the true horror was only beginning, because the ancient warship that destroyed them was not alone. Weeks after the massacre, new sightings emerged. One warship became three became seven, then dozens. From the silent corridors of forgotten jump lanes, they emerged, hulking silhouettes of steel and fire, their hulls etched with scars from wars fought millennia ago. Some limped through, space like wounded beasts, patched with alien metals scavenged from forgotten eras. Others gleamed with terrible power, their reactors glowing with energy no modern empire could replicate. Everywhere they went, Dominion fleets fell. Colonies burned. Entire sectors went dark. The humans, if they were humans at all, never sent diplomats, never demanded surrender. They simply destroyed, silent and relentless, like gods enacting a judgment long delayed. Across the galaxy, fear grew into obsession. Who were these revenants? Where had they come from? Why now? The archives were scoured. Historians and xenoscholars once ignored were summoned before the Dominion High Council. "Tell us of the humans," demanded Chancellor Drixon, his voice shaking. The scholars hesitated, for much of what they knew was fragmented. Tales passed through ruined civilizations, warnings carved into dead moons, half buried in myth. But one truth remained clear. The humans were not conquerors. They were survivors. Once, thousands of years ago, humanity had spread across the stars like wildfire. They built colonies on death worlds others would never dare touch, forged fleets that dwarfed anything in existence, and fought wars with species that had since been erased from memory. They did not merely survive, they thrived in chaos. But then, they vanished. Some said it was plague. Others whispered of a war so vast that even humanity's endless fleets could not endure. A few darker voices suggested something else, that humanity had grown tired of the galaxy and withdrawn willingly, sealing themselves behind barriers of their own design. Whatever the truth, they were gone. Only fragments of ships and ruins remained, and over time, myth replaced memory. But now, the myths had teeth again. The Dominion attempted negotiation, if only out of desperation. Automated hails were broadcast on every known frequency. Pleas were sent in 100 languages. No answer ever came. Instead, on the moon of Velkar Prime, Dominion troops witnessed something that chilled them to their cores. A massive human warship descended, its hull blackened with age. But instead of firing upon the settlement, it opened its docking bays. From within poured smaller craft, ancient dropships, their engines coughing sparks, yet still functional, and from them came figures in armor, tall, human. Their faces were hidden behind visors of gold, their movements precise, efficient, mechanical. Whether they were true flesh and blood or cybernetic shells, none could say. But they fought with terrifying skill, cutting through Dominion defenders like parchment. The survivors reported one detail above all others. The humans spoke no words, not in victory, not in conquest, only silence, as if they were ghosts acting out an ancient purpose. Meanwhile, beyond the borders of the Dominion, other civilizations stirred. The Tavel Syndicate, masters of trade, closed their borders and withdrew their fleets. The Oryx hegemony declared a holy vision, claiming the humans were divine messengers of destruction. Countless smaller powers simply vanished, their leaders fleeing into the void, praying the storm would pass them by. But it would not, because the humans did not merely target the Dominion. Their warships struck elsewhere, across the Orion Arm, in patterns no strategist could decipher. Worlds untouched for centuries suddenly burned. Dead systems became battlefields once more. It was as if humanity had awakened with an agenda no one could comprehend. In the Dominion capital, the High Council splintered. "We must unleash the Apex Fleet," urged General Kor, slamming his clawed hand on the table. "Every ship, every weapon at our disposal." "To what end?" countered Chancellor Drixon. "You saw what one warship did to the Sixth Fleet. Imagine 100, 1,000. "Then we find their weakness," Kor roared. "Nothing is invincible." But a frail scholar, summoned from the archives, spoke quietly from the shadows of the chamber. "You do not understand. Humanity does not fight wars to win." All eyes turned to him. They fight wars to end them. On the edges of known space, more truths began to emerge. Explorers stumbled upon derelict stations, ancient listening posts that activated upon detecting human signals. They broadcasted one final warning in a voice old and weary. "If you hear this, humanity has returned. Flee, hide, pray, for their silence means the reckoning is near." The galaxy shuddered. Still, not all gave in to despair. Admiral Vaith's successor, a young and untested commander named Zyron, believed there was hope. She studied every report, every fragment of wreckage left behind by the humans. She saw patterns in their strikes, not randomness, but purpose. "They are not wiping us out," she argued to the council. "They are searching for something." "What?" the council demanded. Her answer was a whisper. "The rest of themselves." The theories spread like wildfire. What if these were not the last humans, but only the beginning? A vanguard, a fragment of a sleeping empire awakening piece by piece. If true, then the galaxy was not facing a handful of rogue warships, but the return of a civilization that once spanned the stars, and if they found what they sought, nothing would stand in their way. The Dominion prepared its greatest defense. Fleets were recalled. Shipyards worked day and night to produce weapons that might stand against the ancient juggernauts. Planetary governors evacuated billions, scattering refugees across the stars. But deep down, they knew they were too late. In the void between worlds, a hidden fleet stirred. Thousands of human warships, silent as tombstones, began to awaken. Their reactors flared to life, their weapons hummed with energy older than the Dominion itself. And in that silence, across the fractured galaxy, one truth settled like a shadow. The humans had not returned to conquer, they had returned to finish what was left undone. The galaxy had been living under a shadow, Every hyperspace lane, every border world, every fortified station carried the same dread whisper. The humans are coming, and now the whispers had become undeniable because the galaxy had seen only fragments. Single. Warships, scattered fleets, raiding strikes, but deep in the void, beyond the veil of known space, the truth stirred. Humanity had not simply returned. Humanity had awoken. The first sign came on the edge of the Varos Rift. An exploration vessel, belonging to the Tavel Syndicate, stumbled upon an anomaly, a graveyard of ships, countless wrecks orbiting a dead star. At first, the explorers believed they had found the remains of humanity's downfall, a battlefield where their empire had perished long ago. But as they scanned the wrecks, the dead star lit with sudden brilliance. Engines flared to life. Hulls long thought broken reformed as armored plating slid into place. Thousands of warships, dormant for millennia, rose from their slumber. They were not dead. They had been waiting. The explorers did not survive to tell the tale, but their final. Transmission echoed through the syndicate. They were never gone. They were only sleeping. In the Dominion capital, panic erupted. The High Council convened in endless sessions, their chambers echoing with fear. "If they awaken their entire fleet, we are finished," General Kor thundered. "They already have," whispered Chancellor Drixon. The council turned to Admiral Zyron, the only voice who had studied the humans without drowning in terror. "What is their purpose?" they demanded. Zyron's eyes darkened. "Not conquest, not extermination. They are searching for themselves, and when they find what was lost, we will not matter." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, human fleets began to converge. It was not random destruction anymore. Their strikes followed a pattern, coordinated with eerie precision. They scoured archives, raided research stations, burned databanks, seized relics left in forgotten ruins. It was as if they were erasing history itself, cutting away any trace of the truth. On the shattered colony of Rassos IV, survivors reported a chilling sight. A human commander standing amidst the ruins, its golden visor reflecting fire. It held in its gauntlet not a weapon, but an ancient star map, a map leading somewhere. The galaxy's smaller powers began to break. Some bent the knee, offering tribute to the silent fleets. Others fled into the unknown, abandoning entire civilizations. To the tide. The Dominion, proud and arrogant for millennia, faced its own crumbling. Refugees clogged the hyperlanes. Planetary governors turned traitor, declaring independence in hopes of survival, yet none of it mattered. Because one truth became clear: against humanity's return, no defense would hold. Then came the day of reckoning. It began in silence, as all things with humanity now did. Across the Orion Arm, human warships halted their attacks. Fleets that once scoured colonies now stood still, engines glowing faintly in the dark. And then, they moved as one. From every corner of space, they converged toward a single point. The dead world of Erebos Prime. The Dominion, desperate, followed them with everything they had. Hundreds of ships, thousands of soldiers, every weapon their empire could muster, and what they saw above Erebos Prime froze them in place. The human fleet, not dozens, not hundreds, thousands, a wall of steel and fire stretching across the stars, their black hulls blotting out starlight, their reactors glowing like suns. Titans of war from another age, scarred yet unbroken. At the center, dwarfing them all, was a ship so vast it defied reason. A dreadnought the size of a moon, its surface a labyrinth of weapons, its core pulsing with impossible energy. Upon its hull, burned deep into the steel, were words the Dominion could not read. But humanity remembered them. United Earth Flagship, Eternal Resolve. The Dominion panicked. Fleets opened fire in desperation, their combined salvos lighting the void in fury. But the humans did not waver. Their shields absorbed the storm. Their dreadnought stirred, and with one breath, it answered. A single volley from its guns tore through the Dominion armada. Ships that had ruled the galaxy for centuries crumbled like sand. Thousands died in seconds, their screams lost to the void. Still, the Dominion fought. They had to. They had no choice. But deep down, they knew. This was not a battle. It was an execution. On the ground of Erebos Prime, the truth was revealed. Human soldiers descended not to conquer, but to unearth. Beneath the world's surface lay vast vaults, repositories sealed for millennia. Within them, stasis chambers, and inside those chambers, more humans. Not armored revenants, not cybernetic shells. Flesh and blood. Sleeping, preserved, waiting for the signal to awaken. The warships had not returned for conquest. They had returned to resurrect their people. Admiral Zyron, watching from orbit, understood the truth at last. This was never about us, she whispered. The galaxy was nothing more than their graveyard, and now they have come to reclaim it. Across the stars, humanity's legend reshaped into reality. No longer whispers, no longer myths. Billions of sleeping humans began to awaken. In hidden vaults scattered across dead worlds, their warships guarded the skies. Their armies secured the ground. The galaxy trembled for its age of dominion, its fragile empires, its balance of power. All had been built in humanity's absence. And now, humanity had returned to take back what it had left behind. The last Dominion transmission came from Chancellor Drixon himself. His voice, once dripping with arrogance, was now a whisper carried across the void. We thought them legends. We thought them forgotten. But they have returned, and they will not stop until the stars themselves are theirs again. And as the human dreadnoughts blotted out the skies, as sleeping billions awoke, as their warships cast shadows across every world, one truth etched itself into the fabric of the galaxy forever. Humanity was not a legend. Humanity was eternal, and humanity had come home.